Oregon's offense is fun to watch again, man. I mean, it has not been fun to watch the Oregon offense, I want to say, for like the last 4 to 5 years. And when I say that, I don't want to say that they weren't good, because there's obviously they were able to run the heck out of that ball. Maybe ran it too much at times, when things got predictable. Mario Cristobal loved his ground and pound, obviously. And we're seeing some Miami fans get upset with that now, which I think is brings a little bit of joy to maybe some Oregon fans, seeing that over there in Coral Gables. But Oregon's offense feels like it's firing on all cylinders. It seems like they've turned a totally new page after that blowout loss to Georgia. Bo Nix, 5 touchdowns in both of the previous 2 games, and he earned national honors after last week. So it seems like whether it's passing the ball, airing it out to some new weapons that are finally getting utilized, or pounding the rock with some new pieces in that backfield like Bucky Irving and Noah Whittington, and even true freshman Jordan James is getting some snaps, and some significant snaps at that. Oregon's offense feels balanced. It feels like there's variety, unpredictable maybe even at times. A little bit of trickery we'll see, hopefully. But I think that's easily one of the biggest talking points going into this game, especially when they're going to be facing a good defense. And I think it just sets the stage for this to be a really fun game.
Yeah, it certainly should be. And I mean, you go back to the Eastern Washington game, and it was funny when we talked 2 weeks ago, I said in the build up to that game, I said Eastern Washington's defense is prone to the big play, and they couldn't tackle in week 1. Well, this time it seemed like they were in better spacing, but they still couldn't tackle at all. So it was nice to see Oregon last week against BYU still be able to run the rock. You mentioned Marquise and Noah Whittington and these guys, and then Terrence Ferguson has been sensational the last 2 weeks. He's become a really good go-to target for Bo. And I've been very, very impressed with the Oregon offense, especially after what we saw week 1. And I know we've talked about it at length about how good Georgia was, and maybe that was just kind of maybe an apparition and not something to hang your hat on. So definitely much improved Oregon offense, and the WSU defense is in for some real trouble on Saturday if they continue playing the way they have the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and another guy that I think has also been deserving some credit in this offensive turnaround for Oregon is Terrence Ferguson. 4 touchdowns so far through 3 games. Oregon's tight ends just really were not having that big of a role in the defense these past couple of years, which was really a shame, because I feel like that was one of the calling cards for Joe Moorhead when he was at Penn State, was how he was able to get some of those incredible tight ends involved, like Mike Gesicki. And I think a lot of Oregon fans were hoping to see some more of that in Eugene. But after some run-heavy offenses, we know for a fact that Terrence Ferguson, Maliki Matavao, those guys know how to block. But it doesn't just stop at them. We're seeing guys that are finally back healthy. Cam McCormick, Patrick Herbert. They're getting some run and some snaps. Cam McCormick got his first touchdown for a while since his injury. Wow, I'm getting a little bit tripped up here. Got to slow down, but yeah, it's nice and refreshing to see that the tight ends are playing a role, and I think it's cool too, because Oregon lost a lot of talent at the skill position last year. You're looking at Jalen Redd, Micah Pittman. They were both gone. Devin Williams, no more CJ Verdell or Travis Dye, but it looks like they've kind of really bridged the gap, and they haven't really missed a step. And I think they're kind of exceeding expectations right now.
Yeah, and if last week is any indication, I think the offense has a ton of confidence, which I think they got in that Eastern Washington game, coming off the tough loss. They really needed that game to kind of get back on track. And then you saw it last week. They were able to put together a great game. And we talked about it 2 weeks ago. What's the big thing that's going to keep this offense moving? Don't turn the ball over. When they don't turn the ball over, they're going to be tough to beat. And I think that's just the same story for this week. If Bo Nix and those guys are able to hold on to the ball, don't give it away, there's no reason why they can't put up another solid performance this week.
Yeah, and we were talking off air. I just released my keys to the game story over on Ducks Digest. Give that a read if you haven't. And it had to do with winning the turnover battle being one of the three keys for this one. And I think a lot of that starts with Bo Nix taking care of the ball. And with Oregon running the way that they have, maybe they don't need to worry too much about Bo Nix. They don't need him to do as much as maybe he has. And that was something that I've been talking about, all throughout the offseason, is that they don't need a superhero. They don't need a superstar performance from Bo Nix. They need to pound the rock, because that's been their calling card. That's been the strength of their team. And if they can do that and do that early, it's going to go a long way, I think, in just helping him settle in, help the whole team settle in. Because we saw against BYU, Dan Lanning said it himself. There were times in that game where they kind of just went jumbo package. They knew they were running. BYU knew they were running. Everybody in Autzen knew they were running. And it's like, hey, come out and stop us.
Yeah, I think that's a big key to this game. I think that Oregon and those big offensive linemen trying to control the line of scrimmage is going to be a huge, huge key to this game. If Oregon can run the ball, WSU is in for a world of hurt this week. But the thing that this Cougar defense has been good at all season is stopping the run. And nobody has been able to run against them. They held Braylon Allen under 100 yards for the first time in a long time, because Wisconsin just loves running the ball. They still gave up 170 yards on the ground in that game, but I think people were expecting a lot more. And it's really crazy to think about, because when you think about Washington State, nobody ever talks about the defense, right? Well, this year you need to talk about the defense, because the defense is that good and that talented, and it starts up front for these guys.
All right, well, we're going to get to the Washington State defense in just a second. There's a comment here I wanted to bring up, and then we'll talk about WSU's defense. Andrew says, can't wait to watch Bucky break bodies again. Irving runs like a wrecking ball of hate. I think that's one of the things that's really stuck out to me so far from this offense in 2022 is that it seems like with each week, Bucky Irving keeps making his case that much stronger for RB1, and Oregon's running back room is totally loaded. We're still waiting to see if Byron Cardwell is going to be available in this one. Dan Lanning holding his cards close to the vest on this, on the injury front, saying yesterday on Wednesday that both Byron Cardwell and Justin Flo were practicing, but he didn't want to talk about injuries. So we're going to see if Cardwell's available to go. But Bucky Irving spoke earlier this week about how he kind of just prides himself on not letting that first guy tackle him, not letting the first defender bring him down. And there were multiple runs in that that BYU game where he just kind of looked like a pinball, and there were runs where you thought he was down behind the line for a multiple yard loss, and then he was able to make some cuts and make some spins, and then the next thing you know, he's turning nothing into something. So that's a challenge that Washington State's defense is going to have to be ready for, is making sure that you fly around the ball and you get him down sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Marquise Irving has been a tough guy to tackle so far. I think without Byron in the lineup, he definitely should be RB1 for Oregon. I think he's proven in the last couple of weeks that he's capable of those duties. And just like you said, it's all about flying to the ball, making tackles, and trying. And that's the big thing that we've been seeing all across college football is defenses need to be able to tackle. And it's week 4 now. Getting towards the middle of the season now, you should be pretty locked in on your tackling drills and be able to take down some of these ball carriers. Obviously, Bucky Irving is going to be tough to take down, but I think Washington State is going to be ready for him and for that tough physical Oregon run game.